Hey, what's up, guys? It's Art Book Addiction here, and we're here with a new artist journey video. So today we're going to be talking about, is AI art the same as real art? Okay, and on a more broader definition, what is art exactly? Right? To me, art is an expression made by a person or persons, like multiple people, right? um, given into a medium, right, or a form, right, and then something that could be consumed by another person, right, and they get something from that, right. I've been having a lot of arguments, right, in my comment section, about like whether AI art is valid as an art category, whether it is whether we as artists can say what's real art versus what's not real art, right? And I kind of wanted to just get into the weeds of that, right? Just to kind of like have that discussion and kind of like, you know, talk about it, right? So that's what we'll be getting into. But before we start the video, please hit that like, hit that subscribe, check out my Prince and Patreon if you want to support the channel. Consider becoming a channel member, and join the Discord. Okay, and with that, let's get into it. So first, let's get into whether AI art is real art. Okay, right? The fact that we have to have that distinction, I think that kind of speaks for itself, right? AI art versus real art. Okay, a lot of AI people will come to me and say that, like, well, it seems like you're implying that AI art is not real art. Okay, and like the thing is that, like, that's true. Okay, and the thing is, like, what the difference between real art and AI art, okay, is that real art is something being expressed by a person with a human perspective, okay, that has like a something behind it, right? You know, like someone describe that as soul, right? Some would describe that as like a perspective, right? A point of view, okay? Now that's something that AI art has kind of a trouble mimicking, okay? And like for most people, some would think that that is the most important part of art, right? It is like seeing another person's point of view or perspective, right? And like that is given into a physical form, okay, or a visual form rather. And the thing is that when you have AI art, there's not really a perspective behind it, okay? There's not really a point of view behind it, and that's usually what it's missing. When you look at AI art, you see it and you're like, okay, it's like visually appealing, but there is kind of like an uncanny feeling. There's something, you look at it and you're like, this kind of like something, like a little something going on, right? It's kind of lifeless, right? It just kind of falls flat despite being really pretty, okay? And that's what people in the AI sphere do not really understand, okay? They are really focused on something looking aesthetically pretty, something that can really like ooh, wow, like, wow, look at that, isn't this like so well done, right? Look at the render, look at the, you know what I mean, right? And it just doesn't like for those people, that's all that's important, the fidelity, the level of of render, like look at what I could do without any skill, without anything, right? And now we're kind of getting into the realm of there are people who draw and then use AI to kind of like, spruce up their art, right? And then like they view themselves as superior to people who just purely prompt, right? So it's almost like an AI civil war, right, between the people who draw a little bit and use AI and the people who just use AI purely like just with prompts, right? And then there's people who prompt and say that there are, there's a skill in prompting, and the people who just prompt like and say like, it's easy, it's like it's a joke, like, and like in a weird way, the people who only prompt are kind of on the side of artists, where they're like, yeah, like, I'm not going to delude myself into thinking that, like, I'm the same thing as the real artist, you know what I mean, or someone who creates like the real thing, right? And again, there's like these three camps like fighting amongst each other on like who's the realist, who's the fakest, right? And the thing is that, like, it doesn't really matter, because they're all fake. Okay, they're all of them, you know what I mean, are like, at least I would say that the prompters are at least being genuine and saying like, hey, I had no creative energy in this. I had an idea and I wanted to make an image, right? And like, in a way, that's like the most honest about it, right? And like, I could feel like it's okay in that regard, you know what I mean, that it's like, you're not trying to deceive yourself, right? On the other half, the people who draw and then spruce it up with their art, with their drawing with AI art, and consider themselves like real artists, like, I think those people are the most deluded, right? And you'll see people who write the longest like paragraphs about like whether, like, because why it's valid and why, you know what I mean, right? And like they'll go on and like they'll have to justify, like, look, like, in huge like giant rants why their art is valid, and why we as artists are now obsolete, right? And they have this kind of resentment thing going on, and you know what I'm talking about. It's very prevalent in today's like AI art world, right? And it mostly comes from people who like tried to draw, who became fearful of drawing, and like kind of refused to build up the skill necessary to get good and to bring yourself there, right? But that's besides the point. Okay, like, we all know the AI artists and their camps, right? But what's more important is the status of that art, okay? Whether it is art, or if it's not art, okay? And let's I like to remove that kind of comparison, right? Completely, right? And here's how I look at it. Like, there are people who are younger artists, right, who are not very good, right? And they are insecure about their work, and they become insecure about whether their art is valid or not, or real or not, you know what I mean? Or like, someone's an artist versus someone who's like an amateur, right? And like, whether that work is considered art, okay? It's all art, dude, okay? For people who draw, for people who are good or versus bad, right? It's all art, okay? Like, the worst DeviantArt drawing with like inflation, whatever, that's art, okay, right? And the people who make like the finest masterworks, that's art too, obviously, right? And it's all just a scale, right? It's just bad art versus good art, okay? And what some people consider bad is different what other people consider people bad, right? And then good is on the same scale, right? What people think as like real artwork is just art that everyone could kind of like universally say like, that's good, you know what I mean? And that's like it's like super high, like maybe high fidelity, or it spoke to someone, you know what I mean? Like, it has some kind of intrinsic value to it, right? And that's the value that we need to scale things on, right? Some art has less value, right? Some art has more value, okay? And I'm not talking about like monetary value, okay? But monetary value is usually attributed to that, right? But the value of it can be felt, okay? Can be like, you see a piece and you feel it, you feel something about it, you know what I mean, right? And then like that creates the value in it, right? AI art does not have that same feeling, okay? It is only pretty, okay? It is AI art is the equivalent of like a pretty girl who has nothing going for her, you know what I mean? And is only just pretty on the surface, you know what I mean? And like even then, like, like a pretty girl has like, there's a person there, you know what I mean? AI doesn't have that either, right? AI is just an algorithm made to stitch things together in a way that is pleasing to the eye, right? um, and as a result, because of that process, it loses like the humanity aspect. It loses the intrinsic value that it has, right? And like the thing is, like, if AI art was um, being produced like at a smaller rate, you know what I mean, at a lesser rate, perhaps you could argue that there's more value into it because there's the novelty of it being made by AI, right? But the problem is that AI art is being made en masse. Okay, it is a mass production machine for art. Okay, right? Like anybody could do it. The thing is, like you know, anybody could put in prompts, and some people were like, you know, that's the democratization of art, and it's like no, because you didn't make it, right? The AI made it, right? Like that's the most important distinction about art versus AI art. Okay, art is made by an artist, okay, a person with intent, with a perspective, and something that they want to communicate, right? AI art, though it's being led by someone who would like to communicate something, right, that would like to insert a perspective, right, and maybe they could do that by dressing it up with writing or something, you know what I mean? But the art itself doesn't have that perspective, right? Because it's AI. It's not AI doesn't really have a perspective except for like the prompts that it's given, right? It doesn't try to make you feel a certain way. It doesn't try to like put in the feeling of something, right? And like, you know, on a surface level, you know, like you could see like a thumbnail, right, where it's like a guy getting like angry, right? And I like, because I saw like a video of someone making like a picture of a guy getting angry and angrier and angrier and using ChatGPT to do it, right? And like, you know, like that could, like, some people could say like that connotates a feeling, right? And like it's true, that is an emotion, right? But the question is does it leave a lasting impression on you? You know what I mean? Does the art like does it give you something that you take away from it, right? Outside of just the second you see it, right? Like that's the real issue here, right? Like does it give you something that has that lasting value? Okay, and I think the overwhelming majority and myself go, no, it doesn't, right? It doesn't have that lasting appeal. It doesn't have that lasting value, right? Like, you know, a masterpiece made by an artist from like 300 years ago, right? Like you'll see it, and like, you know, every so often you'll think about it, and you'll be like, you know, you'll have it in your mind, right? You'll maybe you could gain some inspiration from that, right? But an AI piece has none of that, right? Because, you know, it's being mass produced, right? So you see it all the time, right? It's usually being used as just a temporary thing, right? Like as like a YouTube thumbnail, right? Or as you know, when you scroll, you see like, you know, your birth month, you know, like what 80s dark fantasy character are you, right? And like, you know that it's there, and you know that it's just kind of this temporary little thing that you're just like, whatever, you know, it comes and it goes. It's trash, right? And it's high fidelity trash, right? It's like a good like mold of like a Chinese made, you know, figure or something, right? And it's like, you know, it has the appearance of something good, right? But the thing behind it is paper thin, right? Whereas in real art, it's solid, okay? Like there's some bedrock there, right? And you could tell with like, you know, each stroke or each motion that you could really like feel something behind it, you know what I mean? And like that's what makes people really fall in love with art pieces, right? That make people like really enjoy an art piece, right? And so like that's what gives it the real status, that gives it that intrinsic value, okay? Like, have you ever seen an art piece where you're just like you don't even know why, but you just like, wow, like I really like that. It has such charm to it, right? And that's another thing, charm, okay? why is it that, you know, AI art pieces, right? Um, People look at it and they will criticize it to the moon, okay? But then you see someone who made a very like simple drawing, like maybe it's not very good, right? And when you look at it, but you can't help but like it. You can't help but like it, right? Why is that? Okay? And the my analysis of it, right? What I've come to, believe is that it's charm, okay? Drawings have charm, okay? Things made by people have a charm to it, right? When you see like a wood carved piece, you know what I mean, that's like it's kind of janky or whatever, it's not as perfect as the man-made thing, as the factory made thing, right? But you look at it and you're like, man, this thing, like it's got something to it, it's got a charm to it, right? And charm is the thing that AI cannot capture, right? It cannot create charm, right? But a piece made by a child, right, a very simple piece, can be extremely charming, okay? Right? Like a little kid's drawing, you're like, wow, that has such a charm to it, right? I recently watched a video by PewDiePie where he's trying to learn how to draw, right? And you could see that, like, as he's looking through the drawings, from the beginning where it's like not very good, right? Like he's just laughing about it, and there's kind of like this joy, right? And like we're looking at it and we're laughing, right? Like if you watch Moist Critical, you see his his drawing of his dad, and he's just hysterically laughing because the drawing is not very good, right? But like you look at it and you're like, but like there's something to be gained, there's a feeling, there's there's something behind it, there's a moment in you in that piece, right? And you could just look at it and you could just laugh, dude, or you could just like have a joy, like kind of reminiscing about the piece, right? And the thing is that other people feel that too. They could see it through the drawing, that joy or that feeling that you had behind it, right? The thing is that AI can't produce that. It doesn't have the charm to produce that. It's not trying to like when you have a piece, right? Like a drawing that's like not very good. It's a piece that is like almost has like a life to it, right? And it's trying to convince you and be like, hey dude, like, hey, I ain't the best, but fuck it, right? And then you're like whatever, man, I kind of like that about the piece, right? As opposed to AI, where it's like look how pretty I am, right? And it's like you're like, oh, whoa, like that has no charm to it, that has nothing to it, you know what I mean, right? It's very similar to like meeting a person versus meeting like a robot, okay, right? When you're like let's say like you're talking to like ChatGPT, or you're talking to an AI construct, okay, who is doesn't have a personality, right? Is just numbers and zeros, and like you ever see those like robots that like they're kind of dressed as people, right? But they're not quite people, you know what I mean? Like they're like I'm a person, you know what I mean, right? Like, and like it's like in real life, not like in a video game or something like that, because like in video games, like there's writing and shit, there's a craft to it, right? But like I'm talking about like the androids that you see in today's world, right? And you could say like one day it'll be so high fidelity that we can't tell the difference, right? But I would argue that we can, that there is something within us that can detect those things, right? It's like like you ever seen those like fake animals that they use to kind of like roam with other animals, right? Like the fake ape, you know what I mean? That's trying to hang out with apes, right? The apes intuitively know that there's something off about it, that there's like that's not a real ape, that's not like there's something really weird about it, right? And that goes into our very programming, right? There's like that uncanny feeling, you know what I mean, right? And so when you see a real art piece, right, like I said, it's like meeting a person, and like they'll like, and a person implicitly can like they have like a zest to them, a charm to them, there's something there, right? Some people like they'll like do a little song and dance to like ingratiate themselves with you, right? And there's other people who you know, are like you know, there's like a spiky personality, right? So they're like, you know, there's a texture there, there's something there, right? You know, like look at all the like anime personalities, right? And then like that's kind of like what I'm trying to talk about. Like some people are more have this and they're more predisposed this way, or they're more predisposed to be that, like that, right? Introvert, extrovert, right? There's a lot of layers of things going on, an experience, right? And that's what you get with real art, dude. Okay, you see it, and there are layers of expression, okay, when it comes from like the strokes, when it comes to the design, right? And like, you know, maybe it's not very good, but there are designs that I've seen that are not very good, and there's art pieces that I've seen that are not very good, but I still kind of like them. I still am like kind of charmed by them, you know what I mean? And like that's why when you see people who are super critiquing AI art, okay, it's because there is no charm. There is no like person or spirit behind the art piece trying to charm you and say like, hey, you know, like this is something like I might not be the best, but I tried. You know what I mean, right? The AI doesn't do that. The AI is just like, here, I'm here, I'm stiff, I exist, you know, and that's really all there is to it. You know what I mean? And that's what creates the real difference between like something that's real, okay, versus something that's fake, okay? You know what I mean? It creates that real, legitimate like impression. You know what I mean? And some people could say AI art, you know, leaves that impression, right? But either way, I think that separating the two, okay, is actually more beneficial to the AI people, right? They want this to be this, right? But it's not, and everyone knows that, including them, right? And they keep trying to fight for it, and it's like unnecessary, right? What they should really do is just say like, hey, there's a separate category, this is my category, that's fine, and I'm going to do stuff in that space, and that's okay, right? And we do our stuff in our space, and that's fine, right? It is the trying to, you know, bridge the gap, right, and have the same status that's the real problem, okay? So you know, hopefully through this you guys kind of have a better understanding of why you may look at an AI art piece and go like, there's something off about that, right? Or like for AI people to understand why there should be a difference, there should be a distinction between AI art and real artists, right? And me saying that real art and AI art is an important distinction, not because of like me saying like AI art is not real art, is that like real art needs to be known, okay, and needs to be like, and it has a certain like thing to it, okay, as opposed to AI art, which is made by an AI, is not made with a human perspective behind it, right? Versus real art, which has that, okay, and has like the soul and everything, right? And everything equipped in the layers that I spoke of earlier, right? And that having these distinctions are important and like can actually make it easier for both parties to enjoy, you know, the art that is created, okay? Yeah, I think we could end the video here, guys. Please, if you enjoyed the video, hit that like, hit that subscribe, check out my Princeton Patreon. If you want to support the channel, consider becoming a channel member and join the Discord, okay? All that bullshit. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks a lot.